Right, we want to embark to our discussion. We'll give you the international news much later. And of course, it's all about the state of the economy. A peaceful settlement of Kenya's political impasse will determine the country's economic fortunes in the near and medium terms, the World Bank has said. The bank announced that it announced this as it got downgraded its 2017 growth forecast to below 5%. Severe drought in the first half of the year, a slowdown in credit growth arising from last year's capping of the lending rate, and a prolonged political season had taken steam off economic activity, forcing it to lower the growth forecast to 4.9% from an early estimate of 5.5%. The bank said in its latest quarterly review. The multilateral lender, however, said it expects East Africa's largest economy to rebound to a growth rate of 5.5% next year before accelerating to 5.9% in 2019, but subject to the settlement of the political impasse in the coming weeks. President Uhuru Kenyatta said his administration will pay special attention to 4 key sectors he believes will drive Kenya's economic agenda during his second term in office. The youth, he said, will be at the center of the 4 pillars plan, dubbed the Big Four, that includes food security, affordable housing, manufacturing and affordable healthcare. Kenyatta said growth in the key sector will ride on the foundation laid in his first term in sectors such as transport, electricity, distribution, education and ICT. And we're asking you this morning, how bullish are you about the state of the economy? How bullish are you about the state of the economy? You can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 is our SMS portal. We have a panel already in studio with us. Just want to introduce you to them again. And of course, joining us is the chair of Kenya Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Kiprono Kittony, who is with us this morning. We have also engineer Charles Kalomba, who is the General Secretary of the Kenya National Federation of Jua Kali Associations. Also, we do have with us Patrick Obath, who is the Vice President of International Chambers of Commerce. Also, we do have with us Bob Karina, who's the Vice President of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. A very good morning to you, gentlemen, once again.
Good morning. Thank you. Morning.
Right, we've just given and laid the background for this discussion, looking at the state of economy so far, and maybe we can hack back to where we began this year. January, the World Bank has revised its projection of a growth rate in Kenya, and we have weathered a number of shocks that have forced the government and the International Monetary Fund also to scale down their growth projection for 2017. Maybe just to give an overview of how it has been, looking from the Nairobi Securities Exchange as well, and internationally, we have also good things that have happened to us that we were also tapped to be having a good working and a business environment that we eased 12 places, finishing at 80th out of 190 countries globally. As the World Bank said that we have the ease of doing business, the index, we actually shot up, I think, 12 places. So good things happened, but also bad things have happened so far. So how can we talk about the rough and the smooth of the year as far as the economy is concerned? Let's begin with Patrick Obath.
I think the rough, as we all know, is just the drop in growth rate in the country. By and large, that was due to circumstances primarily beyond our control. But again, as a country, we didn't do ourselves any favors by going through this really extended political period that started off literally from January and has just ended literally this month.
Yes.
After the swearing the president, really businesses has not started up. They've literally closed until next year. Mm-hmm. So from the point of view of our internal indicators, we haven't helped ourselves in any way from that point of view. A little bit has been talked about in terms of banking and the sort of the interest rate caps and everything else, but we were already on a slope, on a very slippery slope by that time already. So that, for me, was, has just added impetus on that slowdown in the take-up of credit internally. But I think the key thing here has been the fact that the stimulus to grow the various sectors of the economy has not really been there for the last 5 years.
Yes.
Most of the GDP growth has been basically on large expenditure on infrastructure and those kind of things. So really the underlying growth on the economy has not really been stimulated. And I think maybe when we talk later about the way forward, that I think is probably a very good opportunity.
All right, let's hear also from Bob Karina.
Yes, I concur with my colleague here, Patrick. It is true there has been a lot of slowdown this year, basically from the electioneering.
Yes.
But we are looking forward to a better year next year. In the stock market, we have been a little lucky in the sense that the market has improved from where it was in the beginning of the year. And we see growth continuing. We were at an index of about 3,100 at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
We are currently about 3,700. The only thing I could talk about in the market, in the stock market, it's only that the probably fortunate or unfortunate thing is that the foreigners have been the main players in the market. We have the business in the market being transacted about 70 to 80% by foreigners. So I'm saying it's good, and it could also be bad, because if they were to exit, then it would really affect our economy. But generally, the transactions have been lower. Other than that, the increase in the index is from the price movement. Yeah.
All right, let's hear from also Charles. Looking at the Jua Kali sector, we know is a big sector that has not really been tapped also by the Kenya Revenue Authority. So they're really like racking their brains on how they can actually tap on this particular sector. But you can just give us a general overview of how it has been in 2017.
Debarl, the Jua Kali sector, according to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, 2016, they are 14 million. Now, out of 14 million, if you look at the indicator purchasing power in the Jua Kali, you'll just see the economy is not really up to run. There's suffering in the economy. And of course, the Kenya Revenue Authority has approached the Jua Kali Federation to formulate a program together, because they say we have a deficit of collection, and they are venturing into the Jua Kali sector to curb the deficit. But if you look at it, we've not started the program yet, but we are just about. However, if you look at the Jua Kali, the way they are handling their businesses, they suffer most, because every time there is a problem in a family, the young ones, the children, suffer most. So the Jua Kali, which is the indigenous industry of this country, has suffered most. Even the political turmoils, and even beyond, they don't access credit, they don't access finance, they don't access technology because of just what the economy is suffering. So I think everything is bogged around. The president is saying to create jobs, he's saying to create food security. But there is a mismatch, because we are not handling Jua Kali properly, because this is the indigenous sector. This is a sector that can grow jobs. At the bottom of the pyramid, this is the masses. So I think we need to rethink, as we talk about the big five, I think we need to reflect and see. There was what we developed, the economic stimulus program, which did not yield much results. Now, as much as we are talking about the big five, we need to rethink and say, why didn't we achieve results in the economic stimulus program, which I was part of, and I know the weaknesses that came out. So the Jua Kali sector is huge, and of course we are looking forward. As the president is making directives, we want to see him taking the heart of the masses with him, so that he can move forward.
All right. Let's hear from Kiprono.
Thank you very much, Debarl. I think, first of all, before I say anything, I think for the sake of clarity, Patrick Obath is actually the chair of the ICC Kenya chapter, and I'm the vice president of the World Chambers Federation, International Chamber of Commerce. So there's a little bit of, I think most people don't understand those organizational dynamics. Yeah. But let me say that I concur with my colleagues. I mean, Kenya has gone through an incredibly difficult year. I think from a business standpoint, this must have been probably the most difficult year since independence. And there is a big slowdown in economic activity. There's a big cash crunch. And I'm really excited that we are at the end of a prolonged political standoff, and we now have government in place. And I'm also really excited that President Kenyatta has pretty much defined his agenda for the next 4 years.
Yes.
Around affordable housing, affordable health care, manufacturing, and what was the fourth one he said? And of course, food security.
Food security.
And really that speaks to the needs of this country. And there is no doubt that there's a lot of activity in the continent of Africa. We are 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are here. I have no doubt that the economy will pick up. But I would want to agree with my friend from the Jua Kali sector that this is an area that can really stimulate economic growth. I, as a chamber, we've been going around. On Friday, I was at the Jua Kali in Kericho. On Monday, I was in the Jua Kali in Kapsabet. And really, this sector, with just a bit of tweaking, it can create a lot of jobs. The other thing that I would like perhaps to say is we need to look at the root causes of the slowdown in economic activity. And there's two fundamental issues that I see here. One is access to credit. The whole issue of access to credit needs to be revisited, because the reality is that most businesses today have no access to credit. And the second major concern is the payment culture in the country. Yes. And in this one here, really, it stems from the national government going downwards. The national government is today holding billions of shillings owed to suppliers. The county government is the same. And it's also trickled down to the big corporates. The big corporates today are paying as and when they please. So you see, as a result of that, many businesses are today starved of cash. And the cash that they are starved of is really sitting in other entities for goods and services that they have already provided. So we really need to focus on the issue of payment cultures. And what that has done as well, it has led to default in people paying their taxes, and it has led to default in people servicing their bank obligations. So that's an issue that I'd like to encourage the country to really look at as we go forward.
And we'll broadly look at that as well, because now Kenyans have turned also to SACCOs after banks slowed down lending because of interest rate caps. We'll also drill deeper on that. We see how has the interest rate caps really affected the Jua Kali sector, the SMEs as well, and of course President Uhuru Kenyatta talk of creation of 1 million SMEs in the next 5 years as well. But also, if you hack back to the last 5 years, we can see almost over 2 million SMEs have closed down because of lack of capacity, lack of credit access, and you know, just the environment of doing business in the country has not been very, very friendly. But let's go back to Patrick Obath. First of all, we will peg our thoughts on those four, the big four that President Uhuru talked about. Let's begin with food security, because I think this year we've had shocks, of course, in our system as far as the economy is concerned, that at least even 10 people died because of starvation in this country. And this should not be happening in this epoch of time in this particular country. What is so wrong with our food security?
I think if you look at the productive part of Kenya, there's a very narrow band of Kenya that is traditionally seen to be the productive sector. And that's literally along the main highway going from Mombasa all the way to Malaba and Eldoret. That is the productive Kenya. Immediately beyond that, there are some sort of areas that could be extremely productive, but they require the presence of water. And there is actually rivers and streams flowing through there.
Yes.
And I think really we need to change our agricultural focus to going into those sort of semi-marginal areas and begin to do production in those areas.
Yes.
The large farms, you know, the ADCs of this world that existed before, right, need to be brought back, and even that land reacquired so that they can actually be put into production. Because if you put all those acreage together,
yes,
and you begin to get production in those areas, you will actually be able to stem a lot of the issues that we have in terms of food security. I think the other thing that needs to happen is we need to get to catch our water. I think one of the promises that were made in the last 5 years was that there'd be a lot of dams built so that we catch the water and begin to sort of rely on that water for irrigation, for farming purposes. Hardly any of that has happened. And I think as we talk about food security going forward, we really need to be able to stop that water from flowing quickly to the ocean, and it gets retained. The other thing that needs to happen is, I think, the protection of our water towers is key. The water towers, the one fundamental thing that the water towers do is that they slow down the rate of water going into Lake Victoria, yes, because most of the water towers go into that direction. If they can do that, then the areas that are currently being used as productive areas can continue to produce at a much higher level. So the reforestation and the protection of the water towers is absolutely key. The Cherangani areas and Mount Elgon, and then you have the Mau and all those areas, and even the Abadayas, which is now pretty well done. All those need to be protected, and then we need to start a program of refilling the aquifers in those areas so we can get water security in the western part of Kenya.
All right. What about maybe making it quick on the Arctic? what we discovered in Turkana, the water aquifer, because we've never heard of from the government, and I think maybe this will have been one of the pillars the president will have spoken of, because we have a big expanse of water aquifer in Turkana that is not being tapped. We don't know what are the plans from the government. They've not given us the timelines as well, as far as that is concerned as well. Should that be a niggling worry for us?
I think that the focus on water and water security for agriculture, food security, is a must. I think literally for the first for the first 2 years, I think the president shouldn't talk about anything. He should focus on actually getting those areas up and running. It's not just Turkana that has got water underground. Right? That was known for a long time. It wasn't a shock discovery.
Ruiru as well, I think.
Right?
Recent reports have said
most of the areas to the north of Mount Kenya, a lot of the water that drains in those areas, Wasonyiro, Waterview, and everything else, all those actually end up in some kind of underground water reservoir. So the northern part of Kenya, which is semi-arid, has got a lot of water and has got a lot of land that is community land that can be put together and be turned into productive agricultural areas. So I think we just need to focus and begin to invest in those areas and begin to bring investors. Israel, as a country, has got the technology, they've got a lot of knowledge about turning those kind of areas into productive areas. And if we actually begin to get some collaboration between Israeli companies and the Kenyan government and Kenyan investors, we can really begin to get those areas working. But it needs the county governments to work in a different way. It needs the national government and the county governments to work together to create that enabling environment that will see people going to invest in those areas, because it's not a 5-year cycle for an investor coming there. He needs to come in not because a particular governor is inviting them. There needs to be an institution that says, you come in here and you're going to be here for the next 10, 15 years to recoup your investment.
Right. Let's hear from Bob. Looking at the Nairobi Security Exchange, of course, this year there has been bumps and busts. It's been zigzagging with the pronouncement, of course, of the elections on October the 26th. Before that also we have the annulment of the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta as well. So, but the stock market this year has been resilient. What really informs these, and how have we recovered so far from this particular bumps and busts?
Yes, you are correct that from the beginning of the year, the market went up slowly. And towards the election time in August, it was quite high. Then with the annulment, that dropped the market prices because people now saw there is some gloom in the future. Because when you invest in the market, you invest in the hope the economy will continue stably without any interference. But during that time, that's when I'm saying we were lucky, because many foreigners came into the market. But what we have found is that when the market is not good as we think, the foreigners take advantage of that situation because they believe that an economy cannot stay down for long. So they come in, take their positions, and that helps the market to recover. But first, they have to wait to see the direction they think the economy is going. So when the annulment came, the market came down, but then with the dates, with the coming dates for the announcement of the next dates of the election, and then the election did take place. First of all, when the annulment came, the market actually was almost kind of crashed, in the sense that we had to close the market because the prices really just went down. So we had to close the market for about an hour to stabilize the prices. Yes. Fortunately, after that hour, we didn't close the whole day. Then the market started now reacting normally. But then again, it started moving up. But with the next elections now, the market just shot up. And we have seen quite a few companies which have done very well during this period, like the Safaricom. It has withstood all that pressure, and it's doing well. Some banks also, counters, have done quite well. They haven't really moved as much. In the fact, the banks' counters were affected mainly during the capping of the interest rates. The prices went down, really down, but they have recovered since then. But we see the market opening up as we go forward.
All right, so even given the political pronouncement like the economy boycott from NASA as well, you've mentioned Safaricom as well, we had also other companies like Bidco. How do they fare, or how are they faring right now as far as the stocks, all their stocks are concerned?
The announcement of the economic boycott did not affect those companies. Particularly one of the companies, you see, Bidco is not listed.
Oh, it's not listed.
Bidco is not listed. And the company that is listed is Safaricom. You'll be surprised it's actually shot up. It was much lower before the announcement of the boycott. And it went up. In fact, it has hit the highest of 28 shillings and 50 cents, which is its best during that period. But right now it's trading about 27 shillings and 50 cents. So it has stayed strong. You know, most of the investors look at the fundamentals of a company. What does it have that will ensure growth going forward? And Safaricom has come with many products which have made it not to rely mainly on voice. You know, before it was just voice, but now you see they have many other things. They have the M-Pesa, they have the data, and now the cable, the cable Wi-Fi and the like. So it has continued to innovate. In the process, now you know it is just going to add up into its kitty, and therefore you buy into it. So Safaricom, even now, at those prices of 27.50, I can still say it's a good company to invest in. So it was not affected. I think they looked at what impact will this announcement have, and they saw it's really not much. Because I remember even like I was sending some money to someone from the western side during that time, and the number they gave me was the Safaricom number. So it was really not taken 100%. Maybe a few people did, but it didn't have much effect on the company.
Right. Maybe I can open up that issue of food security and also the share index, Nairobi Security Exchange, to the other panelists if you want to weigh in on that. But before we do that, yes, let's hear from Charles.
Yeah, I think food security, Debarl. Kenya, after 50 years after independence, we've been using rain for farming. I know the population of Kenya, 80% is Christians, and we know very well rain only came in to be a punishment to kill a generation, Noah's generation. Now, when you use rain for farming, you are using a punishment for farming. So eventually, you are in punishment. So if you look at it clearly, and I've always said that in the Ark of Noah, all animals were saved, and the chicken was inside, and the earthworm was inside. Now, the chicken had no business to eat the earthworm as much as its food. So what we are doing as Kenyans,
it was restrained.
Yeah, the earthworm was in the ark, and chicken was in the ark. Now, what we are doing as Kenyans, we are eating the seed. So we don't know how to segregate the seed and the food. So when we get the seed, we eat the seed, and therefore we have no seed to plant to get food. So food insecurity, to me, is a myth, because how do we define food? Because some people will tell you food is maize. And that's why we should go to Kalana Gulalu. Is it Kulalu? Yeah. And I was asking Gulalu, yes. And I was asking some lawyers, they told me Kulalu means a big madman. Big madman. You can ask them, they'll tell you. The biggest madman is called Kulalu. Now, when we go to Galana, Gulalu, and we do farming, then we are doing madness. Because you see the kind of irrigation we are using. Go to Asia. I've been to India severally and China. And those Asian tigers, every day we were together with them in 1970. They are ahead of us. Nobody's telling us what they have done and what we have not done. So we need to go back and say, what is food security? What is food? Let's define food. I was in China and a lady told me, let me take you to my farm, livestock farm. And I knew very well I'm going to see some goats and some cows in a farm. She took me to a farm that she's breeding cockroach. And what she's doing with cockroach is food. And she's processing, and lorries are waiting to carry cockroach. Then I asked myself, this is an emerging livestock. In Kenya, we are spreading them with pesticides to die. In China, they are making food. And I got the difference between when the premier of China came to Kenya, he told President Uhuru, the difference between Kenya and China is that everything in Kenya is made in China. Everything in China is made in China. That's the difference. So when we talk about markets, when we talk about what we are doing in Kenya, we are working for somebody. We are a colony of a people. So this is a market that everything here is coming from somewhere. So when we come back and say, what is in Kenya? Is it banana? Can we process banana to the final so that we don't sell banana as a product, but we sell byproducts within banana? And that's why sugarcane in this country. In India, sugar is not a product of cane. It's a byproduct. What is the product of cane is different from sugar. So as we are focusing on the sugar as a product of cane, that's why we can't survive. Look at cotton. Cotton, you go to Nyanza, you find store pamba. It's a store, there's no pamba. Then you ask yourself a question. Do we have leadership that can say, why are we importing second-hand clothes, or even from other markets, when we have cotton? We have the best cotton soils. Why don't you plant cotton and do value addition on cotton? Then we have final product. So when you talk about jobs, we export our jobs to other countries. Then we import finished goods. That's why we eat meat, export hides, and import shoes and bags. yeah. Then I was in India, and I find kaolin is from Nyeri in Kieni. Kaolin, the soil that makes cups and plates. Then we export to India and China, and then we import cups and plates. Where are the jobs? Then the president says, I'm creating 1 million, 1 million. Then you see the Minister for Industry in the media saying, Jua Kali has created 800, government has created 100. Then you ask yourself a question, what has he done to the Jua Kali to create more? That's the mismatch. Yeah. And then when you ask like I will tell you the sad story.
Yes.
That President Moi is the patron of Jua Kali. Kibaki said, I'm tired, I can't take it. We have tried to follow Uhuru in every corner to become the patron so that he can win the heart of the masses and be able to tell them, what do you see in the Bible, there is Samson who was strong. They asked him, what can we do to you to become weak? And he said, my hair has the power. And they shaved the hair and he became weak. So the Jua Kali people need to be asked, what can we do to you to produce more jobs? What do you need? Appropriate financing, appropriate technology, appropriate mass production. But today, the Kenyan government will expose Jua Kali, who was a prototype in Rwanda, and the Chinese meets him in Rwanda and take a photo of the prototype and goes to China and mass produce, then brings to the market. Yeah. So that's the mismatch, because the Kenyan government is poor.
Okay. All right, let's hear from Kiprono.
You know what my brother is saying is completely correct. I mean, the Ministry of Industrialization has done nothing for Jua Kali. That's the reality. I mean, they're in Nairobi and there's so much happening in the Jua Kali sector. I don't think they have a clue what's going on there. Let me weigh in on the food security priorities the president has set up. I do agree completely that as a country, this should be a core priority. And one of the things I want to say is that we really are operating the ministries of water and the Ministry of Agriculture in silos. And we have a huge potential. I mean, if we look at even the breadbasket districts in Trans Nzoia, where we have over 1,600 millimeters of rainfall per year, we still have 3 months of extensive deficit because we don't harvest our rainfall. The second thing is our technology. We are using completely archaic technology. I was in Oslo 3 years ago, and the Norwegians said that the reason why we have low productivity of fish in Kenya, the Lake Victoria, is not because of overfishing or because of hyacinth. It is because we are using genetic material that is 50 years old. So we really need to look at the technology of agriculture that we are using. Look at our dairy sector. Our national average productivity of milk is 5 to 6 liters. The highest producer per capita in the world is Israel at 38 liters. Why is that? I mean, what's the genetic material we're using? What's our feeding program? Do we have a protein regime in Kenya? We don't. The whole conversation around GMO, that needs to be revisited. I mean, many countries had this debate 10 years ago. I mean, and the countries that went GMO, they're still alive. I don't think they're having the challenges that we are having. Agribusiness, you know, we need to move this nation from being a country that produces basic foodstuff to a country that produces value-added stuff. I mean, look at the coffee value chain. Kenya is still exporting coffee in bulk, and yet the whole world, you know, is gone into huge consumption of coffee. Look at our tea sector. We are still selling bulk CTC tea. We are not advancing in terms of moving towards selling finished products. And finally, I want to say that the whole aspect of marketing Kenya's commodities, I mean, that needs to be revisited as well. I don't think we are an export-ready country. Of course, I know there's a national industrialization master plan. We do know that they're doing quite a bit in that respect. But the reality is, if we look at even the traditional markets that we're dealing with, yes, the East African community, the United Kingdom, South Africa, our share of market every year is shrinking. And it is true what my brother here is saying. Kenya is we are focused so much on the importation of goods. I recollect a few years ago when we went to Turkey as part of the state delegation, and what the Turkish business people, the first thing they asked us is that we hear that you Kenyans don't even make your own clothes. You don't even wear your own shoes. And it was almost embarrassing, because what do you tell them? And it is a reality that it is true that we are so focused on importation, we don't take pride in our own. And I think it's a cultural issue. We need to start to take pride in our own. We need to build our own industrial capacity and our export readiness.
Right.
Issue, what I call policy fatigue.
Policy fatigue.
We have had policies being made about almost everything in this country continuously for the last 20, 30 years.
Yes.
And the one thing we don't implement. If we had implemented properly some of the policies that were put up earlier, we wouldn't be talking the way we're talking today. And I think we need to change completely the way we work. If you look at the East African community, what happened? The 5 heads of state made a decision that we're going to have a community. They didn't wait for the policies and the structures to be put into place first for them to make that decision. And I think for us to be able to really have a big change in the way of food security is being done, let us just act. The policies are there. We don't need to wait for any more policies. Let's just go and do what is already known needs to be done. And as Kip quite rightly said, this silo mentality is what is killing a lot of the development in this country. We need to really have cross-sectoral implementation teams, not ministry implementation teams. And if you get cross-sectoral implementation, where the ministries do policy but implementation is done cross-sectorally, in a lot of areas you will actually get movement, not just food security. I think almost anything, even the Jua Kali sector that we're talking about, if all the policies that exist to actually drive that sector were actually implemented by a cross-sectoral team that looks after all the necessary enabling factors to make that happen, we wouldn't be talking like we are today. Kenya would be quite far ahead. And I think if there's one difference that has to happen in the coming 5 years, is that we should have basically implementation teams that are cross-sectoral, that have the wherewithal, have the authority to actually move forward and not wait for Minister X, Minister Y, and Z to all sign for something to happen. I think we need to have a complete change of the way we work to be able to implement. And I don't think that all this, oh, we got to food insecurity, we got to focus on this and that and the other. The president has said the right big buckets. Now the implementation teams have got to be basically within those buckets, and the minister should report to those teams. I think we need to change everything, flip it around.
Right, but yeah, let's hear from Karina, then I'll ask my question.
Thank you, Debarl. I wanted to add to what Patrick is saying, especially on food security.
Yes.
Actually, it's on implementation. The government sometimes comes up with good ideas. Like now, there was this issue about Tana River program on irrigation. I think it started, it was announced. We have been waiting for it to take place. It has not taken place. That area, there is a lot of water around, which can be used to irrigate a lot of land and therefore add to the kitty or to the food that we require during the drought period. So if we can use the waters that is available, the government also pushes the areas that it has forecast, I think these things would be lower. In addition, when we have a harvest for maize, sometimes the government waits too late, like the National Cereals and Produce Board, to come in to buy from the farmers. I think it should be a program that the first thing they do is to, first of all, give the farmers a good price, and then stock as much as possible that will keep us going for a while. Sometimes they come when the farmer is desperate and the food is almost going to a waste. So I think we need to be more focused to ensure that the food we stock is enough to take us for probably even a year. So that's a focus, but now that the president has put this as one of the pillars, I'm hoping the necessary processes and systems will be put in place to ensure that we have enough stock to last us even during the time of drought.
Yeah, but we've heard about these promises before. We know also of the Silicon Savannah that he promised, nothing took off from that end as well. We know the much-touted annuity road project that was to drive infrastructure. Still, he says, of course, we'll focus on infrastructure. They've never delivered on that for the last 5 years. How sure are we that, yes, they're going to actually this time forth make good of their promises?
We can give him benefit of doubt because he has come up in the national to tell the nation that he wants to focus on 4 particular areas. And those particular areas are very crucial to us all as Kenyans.
But he said
so
that
probably
before.
Now he has 5 years, maybe less than 5 years. Let's see what he does. Maybe we can revisit this issue after probably 6 months and see. Let's not really give up yet. Let's think positive and hope that or see what measures is he going to put in place to ensure these 4 areas, focusing one at a time, now be on food security. Let's see what he will do, or what does he have in mind to ensure that there is food security for the country.
All right. Because the Techno City.
Yes, we'll come to that. We'll come to that when we're looking at the ICT. Before we come to Kip, let's hear from Mr. Kalomba.
The food security issue, Debarl, I want to tell you that other than being the Secretary General of Jua Kali Association, I'm the advisor of the Council of Governors on cottage industry development. I sit with Kiridi as a researcher on technology.
Yes.
I sit with NITA, National Industrial Training Authority, as chair of the Sector Training Committee on commercial and the corporate sector.
Yes.
I have been in Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture with a system for a long time with the Vice Chancellor, where I'm the co-chair of the Vice Chancellor, to help the university to understand what is the industry needs. If you train your students in food processing, are they going to be felt in the industry so that what they are doing should be the needs of the people? Because today university are just graduating. If you follow them, you will find that what they were learning in school is not what they are applying out here. Now, other than that, I've been an advisor of the Minister of Agriculture on food,
yes,
coconut and cashew nut, with appointment. Advisor of Minister of Industry on technology, on appointment. Now, I look at everything as a mismatch because nothing is working in as much. Because the kind of synergy that is available in the government system of Kenya, every ministry is like a government. So the Minister of Industry will not tell you how relevant to the Minister of Agriculture. Whereas the Minister of Agriculture is a producer ministry to produce raw material for the Minister of Industry to produce technology for value addition. Then standards from Kenya Bureau. I sit with Kenya Bureau in several technical committees.
Yes.
Now, those technical committees, they provide technical standards for various things. So, can I take Kideri from Kenya and circumvent into German market? Because people are looking for Kideri in Germany. People are looking for Mukimo. They are looking for Murusik. Our people from diaspora. We have the diaspora conference going on, Chairman, I think you are presenting tomorrow. Now, this diaspora conference, our people out there, they are starving. They don't have food. Inside here, food is rotting. And yet, when I was in India, I was told, agriculture is a culture. It's an agribusiness culture. If you don't have an agribusiness culture, agriculture is a myth. So what we do is we plant cassava, and it goes to waste, and we import starch for our processes. So the farmers are looking for money, whereas we are rotting their commodity, and we are importing finished goods from other markets. So what we need to look at, food security is not just one, it's a chain. If we are going to be food security, what is the post-harvest handling technology we are applying? So you find that all the silos in Kenya are loaded with aflatoxin cereals. Today, I was doing a program where I wanted the Ministry of Industry and Agriculture to partner, where we were supposed to download all the aflatoxin cereals from the silos. Then how do you treat the silos to be able to accommodate the new cereals? So what we do, post-harvest handling, is a myth in this country. We don't have the technologies. So we need to think through and say, in the chain, what kind of seeds are we applying in the soil? What kind of irrigation are we doing? But when you tell me you discover water in Turkana, then me, I think my mother is wiser because she discovered water long ago.
Yes.
Long ago, water is underground. So anytime you drill underground, it's only the distance that matters. The whole earth is sitting on water. So you don't tell me about discovery of water in Turkana. There is a lot of water. The whole earth is smaller than waters and is sitting on water. So when you just drill underground, you'll find water. The quality of water is what will matter. So the technology will allow you to either desalinate or make the water to be quality. That's what it is. So this country needs to rethink again and say, where are we going on food security? What is our technology application? If this guy called Faraday was to wait to see electricity somewhere for him to invent electricity, we would be still in the dark today. So the problem with the Kenyan system is nobody is innovative. Nobody is innovative. People want to look at what has been innovated. So when you tell them, they tell you, where is it working? We go and see. So they go to Israel, they spend budget.
They go to
South Africa, benchmarking. They go to where? Benchmarking. What is in your head as you benchmark? Because you must benchmark your head first. Yeah.
All right, let's hear from Kiprono.
Yeah, let me just start by saying that on infrastructure, let's give the government the credit it deserves. The government of Kenya has deployed infrastructure like no other government in the continent of Africa. And I have traveled. Take it from me. Go even to our neighboring countries. Before we criticize our government about infrastructure, let's go and even visit our own neighboring countries. I wouldn't mention which country, but you go even to our neighboring countries. It's been 55 years, they don't even have a road from their airport to their capital cities, a decent road. But in Kenya, we've actually deployed agriculture, and that, infrastructure, and that infrastructure enables the movement of goods and services, and that's a really good thing that they have done. But going forward, I think to me it's very clear that the focus needs to shift to SMEs. And it is a reality that over 60% of economic activity in this country is by SMEs. Over 85% of gainful employment is in the SME sector. But what have we done to enable that sector? Have we created a stable legal and regulatory environment? Have we given them a tax regime that works for them? Have we broadened the tax base as opposed to deepening it? Have we given them access to credit? Have we held their hand? I mean, I have visited small cottage industries in Vihiga. And, you'll find even policy makers going to those industries and saying, okay, fine, you've done a good job, well done, and they go away. They don't go back and ask them, what is it that we can do to make you export ready? What is it that we can do to really scale this business from where it is now to the next level? What is it that we can do to give you access to markets? Look at the whole issue of economic diplomacy. Our president has been at the forefront. He's really led very many delegations, very many forays in negotiating multilateral and bilateral trade agreements. But have they been followed by empirical evidence that our goods are actually finding markets in other countries? And the reality is it hasn't been done. And the next thing that I want to talk about is even our foreign investors. What is the real experience that our foreign investors get? Are we, the narrative has been very good. We've gone and we've sold a story. We've said to them, come to Kenya, invest. You shall have access to work permits. You'll have access to tax rebates. You'll have access to the X, Y, and Z. But in reality, you ask any foreign investor, I think we also need to streamline the whole issue of foreign investors. What's their interest? How does it help our country? Is it in the agenda of our business agenda, and etc.? One of the things that I'll be proposing to the president is that let's have a national business summit. And I don't want to be critical, but I think we need to move away from these high and mighty organizations and really take the conversation down. We are in a governance devolution has taken place. We now need to have economic devolution. Let's move the policies and this conversation down to where the rubber meets the road, where the real businesses are, the small businesses that today we are not able to move because of the bad payment culture in the country. So really, I believe that the SMEs are the cornerstone on which this country is going to be built.
But isn't that the economic summit that we are talking about with the policy fatigue? Yes, we have all these summits and come up with policies that are never implemented. You know, they're being shelved, a lot of them, right? So why do we need another economic summit?
Has it ever been done? That's the question. I don't remember the last time that we've had a conversation that includes all the stakeholders.
I think the key thing in this country is and this is my personal belief, that what Kipper said is right. We need to go right down to the bottom. And the Constitution of Kenya 2010 actually created the path for that, right? We'd had all those meetings and we agreed devolution is how you're going to bring development down at the grassroots level. But we haven't yet seen the return, the promise of devolution yet, right? How many investment conferences have taken place in all these counties? Yes. And what has been the impact of those investment conferences? I don't think very much, right? They've basically showcased what is available, but when the rubber meets the road, nothing has really happened. We haven't seen big investments. I think the only county that has really got a major investment as a result of that was Uasin, where they're having a major big investment, but mainly driven by somebody from Kenya looking for people to come in to invest. Now, you ask the question, what is our own internal investment experience?
Correct.
As a Kenyan, if I was going to go and open a business and start a business in Kenya, what's the experience? And I think that is bad. A lot of people find it difficult to go and register a company, set themselves up and start running a business. And the Jua Kali sector, the SME is down at the bottom. How can they have examples of successes that have happened in this country? All they see are the big companies, the Bidco, the Safaricoms, which have been led by a different class of people. We need to really begin to make devolution work at the county level, to begin to go down and begin to address the issues at a county level at the SME sector. There's an SME authority in Kenya.
Yes.
I have not heard of the actions they have been taking in terms of really going down to the grassroots and getting things happen. That was actually created to try and put an enabling environment for SMEs to begin to work. Micro and small, not even small and medium. It was micro and small enterprises,
yes,
right? Because that was the pipeline for development. But the micro enterprises in this country have really, the only thing that has enabled them to work is M-Pesa. That's the only infrastructure bit that has actually enabled the micro enterprises to operate in a different way. But in terms of policies, everything is there. We just need to get implementation done at the county level. But I think there's going to be a lot of dividends if we get that right. It's not just for the economy to grow, but as the economy grows at that kind of level, our political maturity will also begin to follow behind. Because as a colleague here said, the issue of the stomach is the one that creates anger. If the people at that level, yes, are actually economically active and they've got a livelihoods have been impacted, then effectively they'll stop about the politics of people, they'll start the politics of issues. And what we've been seeing every election up to now will begin to change. So I think that as a country, we really need to start looking at improving the livelihoods of the people at the lower level through county governments and make them work, right? And I think, deferring to Kip, a national agenda and discussion, yes, I think that has been done. We need to take that down. And I think the chamber, Kip, just to give you all the stuff, the chamber has been going down there And I think you need to do more of that and go down to the grassroots level and get the counties to begin to work rather than looking at the national level.
Right, but the chamber also has the chapters within the counties, and I know you've been holding all these investor forums as well, right? And also talking about counties, Machakos County also has been looking out for the investors conference, and this has been replicated to other counties as well. So on that front, I think maybe at the national business summit that you're talking about is what we've never had before. But on the ground level, when we're looking at the counties, that has taken off.
Yes, to an extent. We do have our 47 county chapters. In fact, today we have our annual general meeting in Nairobi. We have all our chamber leaders from across the country coming into Nairobi today for our AGM. You know, but let's talk about the counties, and I do agree here with Patrick. I mean, there's a bit of a mismatch. And we have also been involved in the organizing of county investment forums. But the reality is that to many governors and to many county governments, they don't appreciate the fact that business and investment is a process, not an event. They have been very event-focused. You know, most of them are looking at the cosmetics of a good event, where you have a semblance of foreign investors, you have a semblance of local investors, you have a signing ceremony, you know, purportedly, you know, locking deals worth a few billion shillings, in order to go back to your constituents and say that I have delivered. And then thereafter, nothing becomes of it. So I think we need to really have a conversation with the Council of Governors and tell them that, look, you require some patience. You require to spend time on developing an environment that will attract foreign investment. And you know, even local investment. You need to give an experience, an investor experience that is compelling. You need to welcome that investment in a manner that will really create some traction. But then a lot of times we found that it is just, more of it is cosmetics, it is the public relations, it is the imagery, and not really the actual business that you're trying to lock down. And you're right, Patrick, that in Wasingishu, Governor Mandago has locked in a special economic zone, and that is currently under implementation. But by and large, you know, even at the grassroots level itself, the county governments haven't yet developed that real ability to attract investment. But I also give credit to Governor Mutua in Machakos, because you can see that a lot of the building blocks for attraction of investment are there. But again, it goes back to policy, it goes back to the legal and regulatory environment. How accommodating is it? And that's a real conversation that we need to have.
All right. Let's hear from...
I just wanted to add something on...
Let's hear from Bob. We'll come to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Debarl. I just wanted to add to the discussion and say that the president has come up with these 4 pillars.
Yes.
He cannot work alone. He needs the county governments. So I'm wondering whether, do we need to bring them to, or probably they need to come to a forum where the president is, state his focus, and they buy into his idea of trying to implement what he has in mind, because he will say these things, but they may not follow as he has wished it. So I would say that it is important that we call, or the county governors are called to a forum where this message is passed on to them. Because what we have seen is the governors come, they are elected, and everyone has his own ideas on how he wants to lead his particular county. But now here we have a national focus. I think it would be important to bring them together, address them, and tell them this is what we want to start with. If it is food security, this is the way we would like to go about it. But if we leave it just for the president, it will mean every one of the governors will do it their own way. So I would propose that the governors needs to buy into the focus of with the president and try and implement or help him implement, because now it's already a devolved government.
He's got the opportunity today.
I think there's a council of the devolution conference that is happening. Is in where?
In the Reef, yeah?
Yeah, in Nyali.
And he's there today.
So maybe
And I'll tell you, Debarl, we had the first devolution conference in Kwale in 2014.
Yes.
And that's where I was appointed as advisor. And I gave a presentation to the governors, and 10 minutes awarded. And 10 minutes finished. They extended 45 minutes.
Yes.
Which is an indication that they know what they want. Now, from the 45 minutes we met at the Bomas of Kenya in the first Jua Kali devolution conference, where all the governors attended and every governor came with Jua Kali from their counties. And what we wanted to spell out is, can we segment all the counties to become markets of other counties? Can we segment others to become supplier of other counties? If that's not going to work, there is a myth. Now, number 2, if you ask any engineer, a building engineer, he'll tell you, when you see a crack on your wall, don't seal it. Go to the foundation. The foundation has a problem. Rectify the foundation first before you seal the crack. Because you seal this one, diagonally it transferred to the other side. So Kenyan foundation is what we need to look at. Where are we operating from? We have the Kenya Industrial Transformation Policy in 1997, where I participated. This is the one that gave birth to Vision 2020.
Yes.
The Moi Vision. Now, the Moi Vision is what we picked, and they participated much in the economic pillar. Now, we have the 3 pillars of the Vision 2030, and the Bible says, a people who lack a vision, they perish. But people who have a vision, and they don't implement the vision, they perish even the more. So, what we need to look at, are we able to implement the Vision 2030? If we are not, then we'll perish the more. But me, I will tell you for a fact, the way we are moving, we can't implement it. It will be Vision 2000. Because for one, everybody is focusing on the economic, on the political pillar. So you go to the primary school, everybody wants to be a leader. And even in the nursery, people give their children sweets to go and petition other children to elect them as leaders. Nursery school, primary school, secondary school, when they become university, they are leaders. And they want to be leaders, really leaders. So we are focusing on the political pillar more than the economic pillar. The economic pillar entails, it is the one that is supposed to grow this other one. This is called, the last pillar is the social pillar. Now, how many Kenyans can take a Kenyan for lunch? Because the social pillar is not working. So even a Kenyan to buy you a soda is a story. He will dodge you and go to the toilet and tell you, I'm coming back. And he'll pass behind the toilet because the social pillar is not working. So people don't have money in the pockets. The government may say we have money. Then the problem we are doing as a country, we are benchmarking ourselves with East Africans. We say we are far ahead. Kenya is beyond East Africa. Kenya is supposed to benchmark with Asian tigers, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia. You go to Malaysia or Singapore, you see just a county. But the economy is so huge. The myth around it is that Japan is 377,000 square kilometers. Kenya is 585,000 square kilometers. The population of Japan is 127 million. Kenya is 40 million, which means Japan is overloaded. What is the GDP and per capita of Japan as compared to Kenya? You close your eyes and open, you see a Japanese product. Close your eyes several times and see if you can see a Kenyan product. Or go to Japan and see even anybody in Japan is even a ring, wearing from Kenya. So how the economy grows is what do you have? And normally God has been asking people in the Bible, what can you see? Somebody can say, I see a naked woman. If somebody is seeing a naked woman and another one is seeing a basket of fruits, God will just know this one is adulterous. The one who seeing naked woman. So Kenyans are supposed to be asked, what can you see? So what Kenyans see is how to make money without working. That's the trouble. So when you talk about conferences, and this is investor conference, I've participated in many of them, and I've been a presenter in all the investor conferences in Kenya.
Yes.
When you go to governors, they'll tell you investors are coming. They don't see that they have investors in the country.
Yeah.
In their county, there are investors called the hawkers and the Jua Kali and the service providers, people who polish your shoes. It's an investor. How can you make a conducive environment for him to have a good booth to polish the shoes and earn money and pay taxes? So they don't see that one. They see a Mzungu who is going to come with money and download the money in the county so that this money will find its roots into some channels. I'm telling you, and I'll give you confidence, I'm working with Bomet County. And I've been working with Bomet County with Isaac Ruto for some time now that he's stepped aside. Now the new governor has given an impetus in the program we started. And you will see, very soon I'll be showing you some results, that modernizing a slaughterhouse and coming up with a tannery, you will make your own shoes in Bomet. You will eat your own meat. You will make your own cups in Bomet. Why do you want to export meat to other markets or bones to other markets?
All right, thank you. But, let's hear from Patrick Obath, especially on the issue of the livestock industry and what do we call it?
Leather.
Tan and leather, yes, yes. Because the president has promised that, yes, that particular sector need to be revamped. We don't need to be exporting our hides and then, yes, people make shoes and then we buy them. What can we learn from Ethiopia? And I was hoping that Negatu will be here to tell us more about their country and how that particular leather industry has really flourished over the years. Most of us would buy shoes for an export. Beautiful, wonderful shoes to many parts of the world as well.
I think if we look at Ethiopia, and I've visited that country a lot of times, there was the issue of policy and policy implementation. That's the difference. Nothing else. Ethiopia, once they have decided that they want to do something, it is done immediately. They decided they were going to change the urban commute experience in Addis Ababa. And within 5 years, it was done. Simple as that. Their SGR journey is much, much shorter than the Kenyan SGR journey, which started in I think about 2007. They started in 2011. And here they are with the SGR being constructed at a much lower cost than ours. So it just goes back to what I said earlier. Policies, yes. Implementation, Kenya is bad. And Ethiopia, all they did was basically say, we are going to get the technology to change our leather into, our skins and hides into leather, and then value addition. And for a time, I know in the 2000s, I used to go to Ethiopia to buy my leather jackets because you are getting world-class leather products in Ethiopia already by that time. So Kenya has I think Eden Mohammed has actually spent a lot of time in that policy space. I think for me, much too long in terms of getting that right.
Yes.
Now we just need to go ahead and do it. And the key thing, if you look at getting investments there, is to get an institution that wants to invest across the full value chain. Bring them in and get them to actually invest across that full value chain. Not just in terms of coming into the industrial park or the leather park that is being made up to convert leather. They should also be investing in the livestock sector to actually help some of the livestock producers to produce cows and leather that and skins that are suitable for them. Right? And that way, if we just focus on that and make sure we get it right, within 3 years, Kenya will be exporting. But unfortunately, I think, whilst we are saying, yes, we want to focus on the leather sector and the policies all there, I would hope
yes,
that within the next 12 months, we're actually going to see that particular leather park manufacture leather materials to go out of this country.
Right. Let's hear from Bob.
Just wanted to add that what Patrick is saying is good and it's working in Ethiopia. But I wanted to say also the incentive that has been given by the president as he announced that the disciplined forces from next year or next financial year, they'll start buying the leather products and textiles from made locally here. That, I think, announcement will boost probably the keeping of cattle, and therefore there will be more people who will want to keep cattle. There will be companies that will be set up to process the hides and skins, to add value to them, and then to go to the process of to the next level of producing shoes and related products. Therefore, this will increase in the process the employment that he's looking for, because as you heard, he wants to focus more on the youth, who majority of them are unemployed. So these announcements are also good because in the process, you know, a factory once it is set, it requires people, it requires capacity, and in the process that will increase or help in the goals that he has set.
But what is the function of the Leather Development Council as well? Because can we talk about the Leather Development Council? Because it has been very mealy-mouthed in terms of...
The Leather Development Council, Debarl, I sat down while I was in Kirdi.
Yes.
We developed the Leather Development Center in Kirdi. We developed the shoes processing plant in Thika. The idea was that every hide that is in the country must be processed into crust, into wet blue, through chrome tanning and either vegetable tanning, and you have a quality leather that you can produce a product, a belt, a shoe, or a bag. Now, when we established these two, the Ethiopians came in and they poached some experts from Kenya to Ethiopia. And we established the Ethiopian leather system. In fact, the Comesa Leather Institute of Ethiopia was established by Kenyans. Now, those Kenyans were released after some time to come back here. Now, those guys, they now went to Italy and got Italians to come and help them on design. Today, we are going to buy shoes from Ethiopia. Now, the mismatch is, the Leather Council, when I approached Professor Lonyangapo, is the Minister for, the PS for Industry. He's now the Governor of West Pokot. And I know maybe he's watching and he should be able to say whether it's true or not true. I told him, what we are doing as Kenyans, we are exporting hides, raw hides, to other markets, and we are importing finished goods. Can we partner with the Minister of Livestock, where Lusaka was the PS? And I went to talk to Lusaka. I brought them together in Holiday Inn in Westland. They agreed, let's form a system where some experts from Minister of Livestock, some experts from Minister of Industry to sit together and discuss. And Professor Gada moved in, and the MD of Kiridi. Now, we went through until we formed the Leather Council of Kenya. I was the interim director of Leather Council. Now, the Leather Council moved some steps ahead. Today, I cannot explain what the leather country is doing, because we are still a lot of smuggling of hides outside the country. Then there's a lot of imports of finished goods. So the mismatch is, do we have legs to wear shoes? Do we have cows to kill and get hides? So that's what somebody should be able to explain. So as the president is saying, talking about leather, we need to look through and say, is the chain complete? From tick control of the ticks on the hides to create premium on the hides is a challenge. From fattening grounds, where we can get now fat animals to be slaughtered. From dehiding, we are using knives to dehide animals, knives, and purging the hides, other than a dehiding system. There is what we call the dehiding compression system. Yes. So we need to look at other markets, like Chennai in India. You go to Chennai, is the leather hub of India. Go to Chennai, they don't eat meat. But when you see how they are getting hides and processing, then you come back to Kenya and say, let's do the same style.
Kiprono.
Yeah, you know, I think to me, Debarl, it's just about, as a country, are we serious?
We are not.
Are we really serious? I mean, you know, we can talk until the sun goes down, but are we serious about what we're talking about? And for me, it's about productivity. If we look at the livestock industry in this country, I mean, similarly, I went to Botswana. I went to the Botswana Meat Commission. Botswana Meat Commission was established by Kenyan expertise.
Correct.
But here in Kenya, we have Kenya Meat Commission that is a classical commercial failure. And, you know, as a country, we haven't really embraced that culture of excellence. I mean, and I agree with my brother here that we need to benchmark ourselves against the tigers of Southeast Asia. But we look at a company like Kenya Airways. You know, it goes through massive, what do you call it, massive mismanagement. And you'll find the same people are walking around. They've mismanaged the company, but they're walking around. Tomorrow you'll see them being appointed to something else. Free. And really, we're not a culture that holds people accountable to what they're doing. Uchumi, what happened? Nakumat, what happened? We are not interrogating those issues and asking ourselves, how would we not make that mistake again? And again, let's go back to the technology around agriculture. I mean, look at the livestock industry. What is the genetics that we're using? Do we have a good feeding program in this country? I am a farmer myself. I can tell you for a fact that there isn't enough proteins in Kenya to do good agriculture. Why is our per capita productivity so low? Last week I was in Makuyu visiting a small-scale farmer, 2 acres in Makuyu, and they're doing 800 liters. They have 100 pigs, and they have 6,000 layers on a 2-acre piece of land. A very, very viable small unit. But if you go to the Rift Valley, you will find that the ADC farms did a very good job in the beginning. But a lot of that foundation that was created has not really been used to scale agriculture and actually teach best practice. So let's look at the markets as well. I mean, access to markets. Kenya is a member of the East African community. We have non-tariff barriers with our neighbors in Tanzania. I wrote about it in the papers 2 weeks ago. You try and export your goods to Tanzania, see what happens. The kind of red tape that you get. If you go to Nigeria, our president took us to Nigeria, a bilateral agreement was signed. Nigeria today is importing butter from New Zealand. If you go to our neighboring country here, the DRC, DRC is importing chicken from Brazil. Yet we are, as a country, we have that market right next to our doorstep. We are doing very little about it. Yeah. Today in Kenya, I can tell you, in the northern rift where I come from, most of the chicken and the eggs that are going to be consumed this Christmas is from Uganda. So I think that as a country, we need to first ask ourselves, do we want to be the world's market? Are we serious or are we joking? And really all these things of discussing at policy level and there isn't any implementation. I agree with Bob Karina. I mean, we've discussed a lot of things. But then what are we doing about the implementation phase? But on the more positive side, I think President Kenyatta has made has pronounced the way forward. He's defined it. And I think it is upon us now, it behoves us as a nation to work towards him achieving that legacy. Because if he achieves that legacy, it is to our entire benefit. So I think, you know, looking back and criticizing and etc., it's not going to help us very much. Let us see how we can, you know, dovetail towards the efforts of the president. And let us also hope that he will get people to work with who will be able to also allow him to see what is happening at the bottom. Because the reality has been that obviously a lot of the time the people who have been driving the president's agenda have given him access to the top level of businesses and etc. So he hasn't really been able to have an opportunity to go down. And now I would like to actually ask the president to look seriously at the Jua Kali sector. These guys here can make this country change. Really, I've seen it myself with my own eyes. And if you go to the Jua Kali, like I was in the Jua Kali in Kisumu, last week I was in the Jua Kali in Kericho, even basic things like pooled welding services. You know, we are talking about giving electricity to manufacturing sector at a reduced a rebate. Most of these are foreign investors. Correct. Why aren't we giving that electricity to the welder in the Jua Kali sector so he can produce at a cheaper price? Because they have no voice. Nobody's listening to them.
Maybe on the Jua Kali sector, you know, the sort of pictures that we see is the sort of maybe the mind frame that we do have, that this is the Jua Kali sector. There's no streamlining. Everything is just you know, in a hodgepodge area, no structure, no framework, no policy. That's the mentality, and yet there is so much talent to tap in from the Jua Kali sector. Do you think maybe from the Ministry of Industrialization, could we come up with a secretariat? I don't know if your secretariat or is private, or it's can be also be one of a commission in the government sector as well, to just be empowered and given an office and see how we can actually, because you work with basically and every facet of this country. You are in NITA, you are actually with the counties as well. So Jua Kali pervades every facet of our economy, so to speak.
Yeah. You see, what has happened over time is that we have policy in the country regarding Jua Kali. We have session papers. From 1965, we have been talking about Jua Kali. Jua Kali has been there from 1972 when the ILO mission came to Kenya. They identified Kenya to be on the heights on regards to Jua Kali. In 1988, Moi recognized Jua Kali after hiring Kenneth King, who was a Mzungu, to do a survey of the Jua Kali in the country. And of course, I have been challenging everybody. Tell me one person in this country who has gone to school without a Jua Kali box. Tell me one person who is sleeping not on a Jua Kali bed and is not repairing his car in the Jua Kali. But everybody, when they go there, they go like they are going to a witch doctor, because they want to hide, because they normally say the name is very bad, we need to change the name. Now, then I asked them, which name do you want to change for the Jua Kali? But because they don't understand the meaning of the name, I was in the State House with several ministers of the national government, and it took about 20 minutes arguing with the president, let's allow these guys to change the name. Then I asked the president, by the way, what is the meaning of the name? And everybody said, it is working under the hot sun. They told absolutely not. Jua Kali, Jua means no. No means knowledge. Kali means sharp. So it's sharp knowledge. A Jua Kali man will do what the book says, and he has not read the book. That's sharp knowledge. You get it? But you see, you tell somebody you are a professor in mechanics, overhaul this engine. He will take ages to overhaul an engine. A Jua Kali man who has been a school dropout from class 3 will overhaul the engine. So the difference is that this guy has knowledge, real knowledge, hands-on knowledge. This guy has theory. That's the mismatch of the country. And there is a framework that I developed for 7 years with the UNDP and NITA, which we presented to Matiang'i, and today it has brought a lot of issues in the country. We want to do progression pathways. Practical guys should have a pathway. Theoretical guys should have a pathway. Then we meet somewhere, so that I can rate a guy who dropped out from class 3 and is operating on a diploma level and equate him. So what is happening in this country is the issue of skills, skill match is missing. What are the skills we are operating on? So when you look at the Jua Kali sector, we have graduated from MSc unit in the planning in 1986 to another ministry. And Jua Kali has been working ministry to ministry because of budget. So even in the Ministry of Industrialization, Jua Kali is there because of budget, not because of service. Go to Kamkunji and see what's happening in Kamkunji. Every box, every wheelbarrow, everything that Kenyans are using, jikos. Do you use a Jua Kali jiko in your house? Everybody here is using Jua Kali jikos in the house. But is there anybody thinking, let's go back and show them how to technologically finish the product, even how to source material, how to use modern technology? So they are banging and banging and banging in a government which has independence 50 years. So I don't want to complain. It's critical, positive criticism that we need to allow this government to listen to. That the president needs to take the heart of these people. Move in and tell them, you are producing products, yes, for the region. Yes. Now, how are you producing? Come up with the ministries to support the process of like common manufacturing units in Kamkunji, where you just place a unit of machine where guys will go and produce very quick and quality and consistency in standard.
Charles, just going back.
Yes.
How many years ago we had this thing called the Kenya Industrial Estates? Yeah?
Yes.
Where basically you had an incubator facility where people who had ideas, they could go there, they could rent whatever it is, at common facilities within that, and that was supposed to be the route to market, right?
Yes.
Now, if you look outside Nairobi Hospital, there is a nice place where people, some kiosks that have been put there.
I participated in the construction of the kiosk.
Now, that is an example of what the county government should be doing.
Yes, as an
again
for the product.
Devolution. We have come down to that level. We should basically look at the model of the Kenya Industrial Estates as they were, look at the different, the Jua Kali sectors, create industrial estates, for want of a better word, for those different sectors, in land that is given by the county government, and then put the necessary support facilities in there, whether it is microfinance institutions, whatever it is, right in the place where these guys are working. And then you can move.
Patrick, we are doing industrial parks in the country.
We have to do exactly that.
You need to know we are doing industrial parks in the counties. But it's going very, very slow. But the model of KIE, there was KIE, there was Industrial Development Bank, and there is ICDC. Kenyans have not known why they were established. There is a chain of growth. That this one will handhold this entrepreneur for this period, finance, because what we are talking about, access to credit in Kenya, anybody can access to credit. What is the cost of credit in this country?
Thank you.
So appropriate finance.
Let me just say something.
Let's hear from Bob, then we'll come to you, Kim.
All right.
Yep,
Just
Bob.
let me first declare my interest. I'm a director of Kenya Industry Estate.
Okay.
And if you look or find out why it was established, it was supposed to be an incubation center for this coming up Jua Kalis, as we would call them. Entrepreneurs. Yes. You want to start something, you go to them, they finance you. And normally they finance you lower than the financial institutions. So the whole idea was you go there and then you get some funding and grow. In fact, some of these large companies, like the Hakos, they started in KIEs. So the foundation of KIE was really based to grow the industries. Unfortunately, therein came the politics, and some of the people went to borrow money, big people who can afford anything. And I don't want to mention names, but they went to borrow money knowing they will never pay. Then the security or the collateral they gave to the KIE is something which was non-existent or which could not be sold to get the money back. So that made it not really grow. So when politics enter into an industry, nothing much can happen. So that is one of the problems. Secondly, they are supposed to fund these incubators. They don't get enough or sufficient funds to do so. You know, you're supposed, it's like you have a tractor, you want it to go to work and then you don't take it to the field. Then you have a tractor parked there and that nothing can do. The potential of KIA is great, but we are thinking now with this pillar of manufacturing, it will bring or revive or bring more power to the KIE so that it has. In fact, it is just completing an incubation center on Likoni Road. There's a building there which is supposed to house interested investors. But you see now, if you have no money to borrow, then it will just stay like a white elephant. So the government needs to focus also by giving the institutions, not just KIE, the institutions that are supposed to focus on a certain area so that they are able to at least provide what is supposed to be done.
But KIE has not been serious. Let me just interrogate what you're saying. KIE has never
the director is here, you tell him.
The director is here. KIE has never been serious. Single-handedly, I approached President Kibaki to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor, get money from the exchequer, put in special unit, let the guys who are producing borrow affordably. Then let this money go to KIE and let the Jua Kali guys go to KIE and borrow at 3 to 4 to 5% and repay their money as they grow at a certain turnover. Let them borrow at higher rates like 6 or 7, 8%. KIE withdrew their hands because KIE is lending at 18% plus. To date, as we talk today.
I can,
let him clarify.
I can tell you straight in there. You call even Debarl after this.
Yes.
Call and say you'd like some funding. What is your rate? Just call.
And the condition
nobody today is lending Debarl more than 14%.
Okay, so you are lending.
So the maximum anyone.
14.
I'm not just taking KIA.
Yes.
Anyone. And maybe you haven't tried to get funding.
No, I've secured funding at 18%
since the interest cap, isn't it?
Yeah, since the interest cap.
But with collateral, you have to borrow. But what I'm talking about, the Jua Kali guys don't have collateral.
All right, we'll come to that. Let's hear from Kip a bit. Then,
you know, Debarl, I've interacted a lot with the Jua Kali sector. I've actually made it a deliberate part of my job to know what goes on in that sector. And we've worked very closely here with Kalomba, even in Kisumu, where the land was being grabbed by political people.
Correct.
And we, together with Kalomba, we walked around offices until we were able to secure their land. But if you really go into the sector in Kenya, it's a very sad story. These people don't even have access to sanitation.
Correct.
I mean, it's a reality. You go to any Jua Kali today in Kenya, they don't have toilets. They're using, I mean, the
Kikumba sector here just remains as the same.
It's just the way
over the years.
Over the years.
No structures for them, no.
For me, I don't think, you see, if we look at the KIE model, KIE has a role to play, and I don't want to, belittle the role that they have to play. But to me, I don't think that it is beyond the Jua Kali sector to organize themselves in a manner that they think will be most effective to deliver the outcomes that the country wants. And in fact, I wouldn't suggest that we go there with a prescription and say, okay, fine, we're organizing you in this fashion. To me, I've dealt with these leaders in Jua Kali.
Yes.
They have the ideas. They know what they need to be needs to be done. They know how they, you know, if they had common services, if they had common welding, if they had access to sanitation, if they had roads that accesses even their markets, if they had routes to market, if they had front office, if they had showrooms in the CBD to outlet their products, if they had, you know, as part of our export strategy, a way to even get some of these commodities to other markets. You know, I think they're in a position to really make that big change in this country. And for me, I think really we need to go beyond the policy narrative to actually implementation of what these people want. And they are able to organize themselves, and I'm sure about that.
All right. Could we also talk about, because also the Kenya Revenue Authority has really been, you know, struggling to raise, you know, the revenue, and I think they didn't hit their mark. The way at 80 billion shillings, or how much was it, right? Deficit. But the Jua Kali sector also has not been well structured, even for the Kenya Revenue Authority to really tap into this particular industry. And maybe we can begin with you, Patrick, on this as well. Revenue collection, the Kenya Revenue Authority has done a sucky job this year in terms of you know, hitting their targets. They've fallen way below. Jua Kali sector has the biggest. How can we also try and streamline the sector so that we know how can we also use a component of iTax, yes, that actually is configured also to every Jua Kali sector? Because that is also a good chunk of revenue collection that can actually boost the economy.
I have been on a mission, and I've been talking to the successive commissioners of the KRA about simplifying tax collection. It's not that the Jua Kali person doesn't want to pay tax, but they need service in return for that, just as Kip is saying. They need services down there. So there has to be a simple system for paying tax. And the system that we're proposing for this country is very simple. Declare bands of income, which are voluntary, and have a single tax. No forms, zero. And once you've declared and you've registered within that band, you pay your tax by M-Pesa through iTax. And I don't have to pay it. All I have to do is to be able to meet the amount in a year. So I can pay every day through my M-Pesa to that account. And I'm done. I don't have to fill any forms, nothing. So that is your entry level, where it is completely painless to pay tax. But if you look at the system that I always devised, you have to fill a return. Who in the Jua Kali sector is going to sit down and fill a return for the amount of income they're making at that level? Nobody. It's a complete waste of time. So we need to actually get very simple systems like that, which are entry point. And as people progress, they move from one band of income to another band of income until it becomes important to now get your rebates from KRA. Then you fill in the tax to now be able to, the tax returns, to be able to get your various benefits within the tax system, right? So it comes from the fact that you as a taxpayer needs to do that. So KRA has got to change the way they think and begin to look at the use of technology and simple incentives or simple structures for the Jua Kali sector to begin to actually pay tax. And I'm sure if they do that, they probably unlock a huge tax opportunity purely by making it simple. But in return, there has to be a direct gain by that taxpayer in terms of services. So you then, the issue of putting them into areas where they're accessible, you then begin to put services in that place directly, that they can see that there is a return on the tax they pay. And I think this not only starts at that level, it's got to be right across the whole band in the country. I pay tax, but I don't see any return out of it. Tax is a burden, not a pleasure. So I think the whole issue of linking my tax to a return that I can see physically is very, very important. And especially at the Jua Kali level. Otherwise, why should I pay my tax? So I think there's just we need to just change around completely the way we look at tax and tax and the beneficiation of tax at that level.
All right. So
Man, can I ask a question from you first? A question, just a question. Do Jua Kali people pay taxes? I will say yes.
They do.
I will tell you yes. Because when they take sugar, they take milk.
Yeah, the
There's tax,
VAT,
indirectly they are
tax,
paying taxes.
Yes.
Now, it is important for us to look at what we are collecting from that and put it into a system whereby we say, like I'm telling KRA, and I think you should have watched me when I was giving a presentation in the tax summit. Now, I'm telling, and when chairman of KRA heard about it because he's somebody who has known me over time. He said, we need to go your route. What I'm saying, let's do a presumptive tax segmentation system where we are saying this guy who is doing this business, he's worthy 1,000 tax per year. So USSD system, you go to the USSD and pay 1,000 and you get a compliance. Now, but before then, we need to, first of all, come up with data. We are talking about 16 million.
Yes.
14 million. Who are they? Doing what, where? How many children do they have? What are they? Because if I'm earning a million and I have 100 children, then even your million is just a peanut, isn't it?
Yes.
So we need to know, first of all, your history. You are Kiprono Kittony, the chairman of Chamber, doing what business? Where? What are you earning? What are you spending? KRA has not gone to that. So we have agreed that the Kenya National Federation of Jua Kali Association, where I come from, we are going to sign an MOU with KRA, and we shall take them, we are going to have tax awareness campaigns in the whole country. So that in Kisumu, all the counties around Kisumu come to Kisumu. In Mombasa, all the counties around Mombasa come together in Mombasa, and then we have a national one.
Thank you.
And then we are.
Right. Kiprono, we'll wind up on that a bit then.
Okay, just very briefly. We've signed an MOU as a Chamber of Commerce with the KRA, and one of the objectives of that MOU is to broaden the tax base. I think KRA needs to stop focusing on deepening the tax base. I mean, collecting more money from the existing wallets. We need to look at how we can broaden it, and I think some of those ideas that have come forward, I concur with them. I think there's an important, I want to commend KRA for one thing. They're very stakeholder driven these days. They actually listen. And I've also been participating in all their taxpayers' days. In fact, I always prioritize it in my diary because they're very stakeholder driven and they do actually listen. But I think it speaks to a deeper problem, Debarl. And to me, I think there's a need to stimulate this economy. And I started off my presentation earlier today by saying there's actually a cash crunch in this country. And I propose three things. The three things that I'm proposing is, one, if the national government and the county governments, before they initiate any new projects, they pay all genuine suppliers.
Yes.
All the debt that is genuine, let it all be cleared. And in fact, that one, to me, it will stimulate the economy because it takes money back into the economy. The second thing is that there's been a very high rate of default. A lot of people have defaulted on their taxes, not because they wanted to default, but because they weren't paid.
Yes.
Either by the national government, by the county government, by NACUMAT, or by another large corporate. So that led to a situation of default. So I would like to suggest that all those who are caught up in that default situation, a moratorium needs to be given to them. They need to be given more time to be able to regularize their tax status. And then thirdly is to the bankers. You see, we're in a very difficult credit regime. Today, if you're in default for 2 months, the bank has to provide 100%. And for that reason, the banks are not lending to the small businesses. So the banks also need to be encouraged to go and renegotiate with the people who have borrowed and are in default. Many of them are in default, not because they want to be in default, but because they simply weren't paid for the goods and services that they provided.
Right,
so that's one way of stimulating the economy, and it will resolve those issues that we're talking about.
All right, I'll just give you 30 seconds to wind up on what we have also on the front page of a Standard, because we're talking about food security, and Kenya's new land title deed shocker is what is headlining the front page of the Standard today. A court decree that title deeds issued by Jubilee government since 2013 are illegal will come into force next Monday. So we are looking at a large number of title deed owners who are facing, the title deeds, the sanctity of their title deeds will be questionable. How will also this affect, food security? Because a lot of this, maybe they are farmers, and this has been a very heavy issue, especially from the coast as well. Just very briefly, let's begin with Bob Karina.
The first place this will affect is the financial institutions.
Yes.
Because many of them have gone to get funding using
as collateral. Yes.
Yeah, within this period, the 2013 to now, many of them have been used to get funding from the financial institutions. So it means that is actually now a risk to the financial institutions. And going forward, then it will be a challenge for the banks or the financial institutions to use these title deeds as collateral to get funding. So it's a challenge, and I think it's something that needs to be discussed and straightened up.
All right. Patrick Obath, I hope you're not one of those that maybe the sanctity of your title deeds also is questionable.
I think I'm safe. Mine was before 2013. But I think this is just symptomatic of implementation. And I think this is just an example, another example of the kind of way that we implement things. The land issue is a sensitive one. We've had this constant battle between NLC and the ministry right from the time the constitution was put together. This is now 7 years down the line, and we are still trying to sort out a constitutional provision. In what makes it difficult for this thing to be done quickly by somebody sitting down, putting everybody in a room and saying, don't come out until you've sorted it out. Here we have wananchi who are now being threatened because of the lack of institutions performing. And I think as Kenya, we have to start holding people in those institutions accountable. This is just an example. I won't comment about this. I'm sure there's going to be another extension because this is too big. It's one of these things that is too big to let fail, right? So there will probably be another extension so that they can continue finishing this off. But how long are we going to ask for those extensions to finish this off? This thing could have been finished. There was a commission that was set up to look into this. They gave the report quite some time back. This action should have been finished, and this headline should not be a headline that we should be seeing in our newspapers at this point in time.
Right.
Let's just, as a country, begin to sort problems immediately, but not wait for commissions and interministerial, whatever it is, and all those kind of stuff to start solving problems that just kicks the bucket down the road.
Right,
let's get things done now.
All right. Let's hear from Charles.
Me, I would say that we are one country. And as Kip said, that we don't need to complain and criticize negatively. We just need to say things have gone under the bridge, and we need to come back on the road. Now, these are all Kenyan institutions. The courts are Kenyan institutions. The title deeds are Kenyan. We need to resolve the issues and see that those who are vulnerable to the process,
yes,
are given their right constitutionally.
Yes.
That they don't suffer because some error was committed. And that's my take.
Thank you. Let's have also Kiprono.
Okay, I don't really know the background of the issue, so I wouldn't want to speculate on a matter that I cannot speak authoritatively because I don't have the background. But all I can say is that in any serious economy, the sanctity of title is fundamental, it's sacrosanct, and it must really be maintained. The last thing I want to say is that markets are driven by sentiments. People need certainty in order to feel confident to invest and to do business in any market. So I would just like to say that the more certainty we create in our economic environment, the more business ready we become as a country. So for me, I don't know the real details of the issue, but I would like to just say that we need to create an environment of more certainty.
Thank you. Thank you.